What if the first thing you felt each morning wasn't disappointment? Not the sigh, not the quiet glance downward, not that dull thud of resignation in your chest. What if your body still remembered how to rise, not just from the bed, but into the day? I want to talk to you man to man, without shame, without spectacle, because somewhere along the way, many men have been quietly taught to accept the fading of their strength as a final chapter. They've been handed the myth that after 60, a man's fire is supposed to cool, that his body slows, his desires dim, and his manhood becomes more memory than presence. But I need you to know that's not the truth. Not completely. There are still signals pulsing through you, circuits that haven't forgotten how to light up. They've just been waiting to be noticed again. What I'm about to share with you may sound surprising. 3 points, simple, subtle, already part of you, that when pressed, when honored, can help wake up the vitality that's been lying dormant. This isn't magic. It's not some miracle pill or some overhyped promise. It's your biology. It's your nerves, your breath, your blood, and it's still yours. Let me tell you about someone I once treated. His name was Michael, 68 years old, newly retired, a grandfather, widowed 5 years. He came into my office with his shoulders slumped forward like he was trying to disappear into his own chest. He didn't even look me in the eye at first. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he said. "I feel tired all the time. I'm not interested in much anymore. And I can't remember the last time I woke up with, that feeling." He gestured vaguely downward, as if even saying it might shame him. What struck me most wasn't what he said, but how he said it, like he was apologizing for aging, for slowing down. Like somewhere along the line, someone had convinced him that fading was the only option left. But here's the thing. Michael didn't have anything broken. He wasn't sick. His blood work looked surprisingly good. What he had was silence, a kind of emotional and physical muting of the parts of himself he hadn't visited in years. No one had ever told him that his body could respond again, that he could still feel alive in that way, that there was still something in him worth igniting. So we started small, breathing exercises, evening walks, a conversation about diet, about inflammation, about the soft, quiet enemies of circulation. But the moment that things began to shift, really shift, was when I showed him the technique, a form of gentle, mindful pressure. 3 points along the body, discreet, safe, deeply rooted in both ancient wisdom and modern understanding of how male physiology works. He was skeptical at first, of course. Many men are, but a few weeks in, he looked different, straight, stronger, more color in his face. One morning, he called me and said simply, "It happened." I woke up hard. I just lay there for a moment, holding it, not with lust, but with pride. I thought that part of me was gone. What I want you to understand about Michael's story is that his breakthrough wasn't just a physical event. It was a moment of reclaiming identity and hope that had been quietly eroding for years. You see, waking up hard again wasn't just about his body responding. It was about his spirit whispering back to him, "You are still here. You still matter." For many men, especially those over 60, intimacy and virility are tied deeply to their sense of self-worth. When those aspects start to fade, the loss can feel like losing a part of your soul, not just your body. Michael confided in me that for a long time, he had avoided mirrors, avoided being touched, and even stopped imagining the possibility of feeling desire again. He described it as if a door had closed inside him, one he wasn't sure how to open anymore. The loneliness was profound. It wasn't just physical absence. It was the absence of connection, to himself, to others, and to the life he once knew. And yet, that morning, with his body's gentle awakening, something shifted. It was as if that door had quietly cracked open. This moment is so important because it reveals a truth we often overlook. Healing and vitality don't always come in thunderclaps or dramatic transformations. They often come in small, tender moments. A morning when you notice warmth returning, a breath taken without pain, a sense of presence in your own skin. These moments accumulate, build upon each other, and begin to rewrite the narrative you hold about your own body, and worth. Biologically speaking, this reconnection isn't random. It's the nervous system recalibrating itself, the blood vessels remembering how to respond, and the brain learning again to expect pleasure and safety rather than stress and failure. When a man like Michael begins pressing those 3 points consistently, he's not just triggering blood flow. He's retraining his body's communication pathways, rebuilding a feedback loop between mind and muscle, between thought and sensation. This rewiring takes patience and compassion. It's why rushing or demanding results too quickly often leads to frustration. The body resists being forced. It responds when invited with kindness. Another subtle but powerful aspect is how this process impacts hormone balance. Testosterone, often called the male hormone, naturally declines with age, but stress and emotional pain can accelerate this decline. When a man feels shame, anxiety, or defeat about his body, his cortisol levels spike. Cortisol being the body's primary stress hormone. Elevated cortisol suppresses testosterone production and constricts blood vessels, further dampening vitality. By introducing a gentle practice that reduces stress and encourages relaxation, like the 3-point technique paired with mindful breathing, men can begin to lower cortisol and create an environment where testosterone can stabilize or even improve. This interplay between mind, body, and emotion is what makes the journey so complex and yet so deeply rewarding. It's not about chasing some ideal of youthful performance. It's about embracing the fullness of your current self with respect and care. It's about finding strength not in what you've lost, but in what you're willing to nurture back to life. I've witnessed this transformative process countless times. Another patient, James, 72, told me that after years of believing he was done, he began practicing the technique reluctantly, almost as a last resort. But over several months, he noticed more than just physical changes. He found himself laughing again, engaging with his wife with newfound warmth, and reclaiming a sense of playfulness he thought was long gone. For James, the 3 points were the starting place for a broader healing, one that touched his marriage, his friendships, and his outlook on aging itself. Stories like Michael's and James's remind us that vitality is never a simple number on a chart or a single symptom to fix. It's a mosaic made of blood flow, nerve signals, hormones, emotions, and history. And because it's so multidimensional, healing requires more than a quick fix. It asks for patience, presence, and a willingness to listen to the body's language in new ways. So, as you consider the practice I'm sharing, remember that it's as much about tending your emotional landscape as it is about stimulating pressure points. Allow yourself to grieve the losses you've experienced, but don't let them define you. Trust that your body, with gentle encouragement, can relearn how to live fully again. This is a journey worth taking, not for anyone else, but for yourself. The body doesn't forget. It may fall quiet, but it waits, patiently, for you to remember how to listen. To understand why this matters and why it works, we need to talk about what's actually going on in the body. An erection is not just a reflex. It's not simply arousal or youth or hormones. It's an orchestra. And at the center of that orchestra is blood flow. When a man becomes aroused, or even in the early hours of the morning during sleep cycles, the body sends signals through the nervous system to the blood vessels of the penis. Those vessels relax, widen, and fill. That's called vasodilation, and the chemical messenger responsible for that process is nitric oxide. Now here's the important part. Nitric oxide production decreases with age. It's affected by diet, by stress, by lack of movement. And when there's not enough of it, blood flow is impaired. You may still want to respond, mentally or emotionally, but your body doesn't follow through. Not because you don't care, not because you've lost something, but because the system needs a tune-up. Then there's the nervous system. Most people think of arousal as a product of stimulation, but the real key lies in relaxation. Erections don't happen in fight or flight mode. They happen in rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. If your body is constantly tense, overwhelmed, or under-rested, it won't prioritize pleasure. It won't give blood where it's not needed for survival. Which is why so many men over 60, Men who may be carrying the weight of stress, of grief, of unspoken fears, find themselves unable to rise even when they want to. This is where the technique comes in. There are 3 pressure points, and they're not fantasy or folklore. They're connected directly to the nervous pathways and vascular structures that control arousal and circulation. The first lies in the perineum, that small, often ignored space between the anus and the scrotum. Pressing there gently stimulates the pudendal nerve, which is one of the main nerves that controls blood flow and sensation in the pelvic floor. It's also connected to the bulbocavernosus muscle, which plays a role in erections and ejaculation. Pressing here, slowly, patiently, with steady breath, can begin to wake up a part of your foundation that's likely been asleep for years. The second point lies at the base of the shaft, at the 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock positions. Think of them as the roots where the body meets the manhood. These areas touch the corpora cavernosa, the sponge-like chambers that fill with blood, as well as the dorsal nerves that transmit sensation to the brain. Gentle circular pressure here, not poking, not pressing hard, acts like a conversation starter. It tells your body, I remember this, I want to reconnect. And then, just above the pubic bone, the third point. Pressing here softly activates a cluster of blood vessels and fascia that feed circulation into the pelvis. It also connects somatically to what some traditions call the lower dantian, the energetic center of grounding and life force. Whether or not you believe in energy fields, there's no denying the physical reality. This area holds tension. So when you place your hand there, breathe into it, and release the tension, you are literally inviting blood back into your center. These are not fixes, they are invitations. And like any invitation, they must be extended with patience, not demand. I tell men to try it in the evening, after a warm shower, when the world is quiet and the mind is beginning to let go of the day. Sit or lie down comfortably. Use 2 fingers. Breathe. No rushing. No expectations. Just presence. You are not performing. You are remembering. For some men, the response is quick. For others, it takes time. But across the board, what I've seen, and what the research supports, is that when the nervous system begins to associate touch with relaxation instead of shame or pressure, the body slowly reopens. That's when the signals start flowing again. That's when you may find yourself, one morning, without having even tried, rising like you used to. Not as proof of masculinity, but as proof of life. Of course, pressure points alone won't fix years of poor circulation or chronic stress. That's why I always pair this technique with small lifestyle shifts. Nothing drastic, just steady support. 20 minutes of walking a day, a simple morning stretch to loosen the hips and spine, magnesium, leafy greens, and beetroot. Foods that naturally increase nitric oxide levels in the blood. And perhaps most importantly, breathing. Long, slow belly breaths that tell your body, it's safe now. You're not fighting, you're healing. Because the truth is, this journey back to vitality isn't just about the body, it's about the stories you've been told, the stories you've told yourself, that slowing down means fading out, that desire disappears with age, that you have to suffer in silence. None of that is true. And the second half of this conversation, the part that moves beyond mechanics and into emotional freedom, is where things really begin to open. There's something deeply human about the way our bodies carry memory, not just in muscles or nerves, but in the stories etched quietly into our cells. When you press those 3 points with care, you're not just nudging blood vessels or waking nerves. You're telling your body that it is still loved, still worthy, still alive. And that message ripples outward, touching parts of you that have grown silent beneath years of doubt, stress, and quiet retreat. Imagine for a moment how it feels to reclaim even a small part of yourself that you thought had slipped away forever. Not just the physical sensation, but the shift inside your mind and heart, a flicker of confidence, a spark of hope. These moments don't erase the struggles, the losses, or the hard days, but they remind you that life is still unfolding, still surprising you, still holding potential. I want you to hold on to this. You are not broken. Your body is not a museum relic meant to be admired only in memory. You are still a man, not defined by a number, not limited by the myths of aging, but by your willingness to show up for yourself, in your own time, in your own way. Intimacy is not a race or a performance. It is presence. It is connection. It is the pulse of life itself. And that pulse beats inside you still. The path to waking up hard every morning isn't about forcing change overnight. It's about reclaiming a gentle rhythm, a new kind of dialogue between your mind and body. When you allow yourself to press those points with kindness, to breathe deeply into the tension, to trust the slow return of sensation, you are practicing a form of self-respect. You're saying yes to your own vitality, no matter how many decades you've walked this earth. As you explore this technique, remember that it's not a cure-all or a quick fix. It's a doorway, a quiet invitation to come home to yourself. And when paired with supportive lifestyle changes, it creates a foundation where your body can truly thrive. Movement, nourishment, rest, these are the companions on this journey. Each step forward is a small victory. Each morning that you wake up feeling a little more alive is a reason to keep going. I encourage you to make this practice a ritual, a moment carved out just for you. Perhaps you dim the lights in the evening, settle into a chair or lie down, and with no pressure or agenda, simply place your fingers on those 3 points. Breathe in slowly, feeling the air fill your belly, and breathe out the tension you've been holding. Let the silence wrap around you like a warm blanket. This is not about doing more, it's about being more present. And if you feel resistance, if part of you doubts that this can work or feels embarrassed, know that you are not alone. Many men carry this quiet skepticism. They've been let down before by promises that felt empty or by products that didn't deliver. But this is different. This is about honoring what's already inside you, nurturing it gently back to life. That's a powerful choice, one that speaks of courage and hope. When Michael found himself waking up with renewed strength, it wasn't just his body that shifted, it was his spirit. He told me how he began to look forward to mornings again, how he felt seen by his own reflection, how he reconnected with his grandchildren without feeling tired or ashamed. That transformation didn't come from a pill or a quick fix. It came from patience, from self-compassion, and from learning to listen to his body's language once again. You too can begin to write a new chapter, one where mornings are met with curiosity instead of dread, where your manhood is a source of pride, not fear, where the quiet struggles no longer have to be faced alone or in silence. This is not about proving anything to anyone but yourself, about reclaiming joy, intimacy, and energy on your own terms. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, I invite you to try the 3-point pressure technique. Make it a simple act of kindness toward yourself. Press gently, breathe fully, and hold space for whatever arises. No expectations, just presence. And if tomorrow morning greets you with a familiar feeling of vitality, know that you have taken a meaningful step toward reclaiming your life. If this video has touched something inside you, a flicker of hope, a quiet promise, I hope you'll stay connected. Subscribe to this channel for more heartfelt, trustworthy guidance designed just for you. Share your thoughts or questions in the comments. I read everyone, and your story matters. And if you know a man who needs to hear this message, who needs to know he's not alone, consider sharing this with him, because sometimes the smallest acts of courage ripple far beyond what we can see. This is Dr. Camila Cruz, reminding you that you are not done, not by a long shot. Your body remembers, your spirit waits, and I believe in your comeback. Keep pressing gently, keep breathing deeply, and above all, keep believing that life's best days are still ahead. Thank you for sharing this moment with me.